One of my most favorite end of year tasks, possibly even more of a favorite than actually setting up my bullet journals, is populating them, or the kind of migration process where we move from our old journals into our new ones. That's what we're going to be doing in this video, so populating both my yearly collections journal and my everyday bullet journal for 2023. This one's going to be more of a real-time video, so having a look at how long it actually takes me to fill this in. I'm not trying to do any of these things in a hurry, I'm just taking my time with it, enjoying the process. So if you want a journaling buddy for a bit, grab your supplies, grab yourself a snack or whatnot, and let's get into it. Starting first with my yearly collections journal. So for this one we've got my 2022 pages, which are already kind of dealt with. What we're going to be populating though are my 2023 pages. So starting here on the cover page kind of a thing, and this has the 2023 kind of title and then what's going to be my word of the year page. So this is where we'll start our population. You can see I have already gone and sketched things in pencil, but we're just going to write in what the word is for one thing, and also just the definition of the word because that's something that I like to include. I'm also going to include some journaling on this page about why I chose this word, but I might do that one off camera just because it's probably going to be a little more personal and I probably want to think about it a little bit more. I do technically have a bit of time before the end of year, or rather before 2023 starts, so I'm probably going to do that one maybe in a couple of days, give myself some time to think about the real kind of core or like true reasons I picked this word. But as you can see from my pencil sketching, the word that I chose for the year ahead was greater. I was playing around with possibly going with something like grow, because that kind of fit what I wanted the word to encompass, but it didn't seem quite right. Effectively, I wanted a word that encompassed the idea of making something bigger, but also making something better. So kind of building up areas that I've already worked on this year that I feel are in like a pretty good place, but I just want to make them a bit better, effectively. But then also expanding on areas that I think could use some growth. That's kind of why I didn't really want to pick the word grow, because grow just suggested the kind of bigger, but not necessarily so much the better aspect, I suppose. I did have some other words that I was toying around with, so things like cultivate, but I don't know, I feel like the word cultivate in my mind, it doesn't fit, it doesn't suit, what's the way to word this? It doesn't really suit how I see myself, I guess. Like, it feels like too fancy a word. That kind of makes sense. So I decided instead that greater would be a better word, because greater can mean like bigger than, but it can also mean better than, so it fits quite well. So cultivate didn't really work, didn't want to have that one. Didn't want to have grow because it didn't quite fit either. Another idea I had for the word was augment, which I thought was a pretty cool word. That one is not one that I've really seen before. I did kind of like that aspect of it, the fact that it was a little bit more unique, but the more I kind of read about the word, it didn't quite fit either. Augment kind of made it sound like I was just tacking things on to pre-existing stuff. Not tacking on, that's probably not the right word, not the right way to word it. More so just the idea of adding thing to an existing, which I liked that aspect of it, the idea of adding to existing things, but then it didn't really necessarily capture the whole like making things better vibe that I was going for. Something that's a bit of a bummer is that this pen is really blunt on the end, so I don't necessarily get a consistent weight or thickness of the lines as I'm drawing them as the pen turns, so I need to be kind of careful when I'm putting things in. Probably just need to get myself a new version of this pen. I don't know, version? That's not the right word. New one of this, so the Micron 08, which has that nice thick line weight, but because I use it a lot for ruling lines in my journal, it means that the end is kind of blunted, which is a tad bit unfortunate. I love this font style, I just think that it's really cool looking. It's just a little bit unique, because it's kind of just effectively a regular all caps, but with a bit of stylization to some of them. The problem with doing the letters this big though is that it kind of is a bit more noticeable if the letters aren't straight edged, like if the lines that are supposed to be straight aren't straight, so I need to be kind of careful with that, just to give it the overall look that I'm going for. And I've got a link in the description box where you can find this font. I think it's, it's fairly simple, it's fairly straightforward, but it just looks very visually effective. It takes a little bit of time, it's still cool. You know that they tell you that when you're doing hand lettering, you're supposed to think of it as more of a picture rather than actual just letter forms, because if you think of it as letter forms, you're more inclined to just default into a regular handwriting, which is, I mean, you know, if you're doing hand lettering, it's not really what you're looking for. I need to keep that in mind when I'm doing mine. Because every so often I just go, oh yeah, I know how to draw the letter E, and I'll just go off and start doing something that isn't quite what I want it to be. This part is awkward, so I'm actually going to turn the journal. I find that writing on the edge of the right-hand page always is a little bit more tricky because I'm right-handed and there's nothing for my hand to rest on. The nice part about treating this as hand lettering, so like it's a picture rather than actual letter forms, is that you can turn the journal around. It should still look kind of okay. That's also the beauty of having things sketched in beforehand. I'm going to try to do this one from this angle though, just because I want to make sure that that's a very horizontal section coming off the top of the R, just so it doesn't look a little bit weird. Excellent. I'm not going to erase the pencil just yet. I am going to give that some time to dry, but we're going to go in with the definition of my word. For this lettering, I'm just going to use my Tombow. I'm going to use the kind of serif style lettering. I think serifs are another way to just elevate your lettering a little bit. Make it look a little bit more fancy with pretty minimal effort, honestly. The definition of the word, I guess, isn't like super necessary on this page. It just helps to kind of jog my memory as to like why I might have picked it. So I do prefer including it. For this text over here, because there's a fair bit of text, I'm not gonna go in and write that in the serif font. I'm just gonna do a regular all caps. Sometimes if I'm not too sure if a word's going to fit in a space, I kind of just hover my pen over the page and pretend like I'm writing it in to see how far I'm gonna go across if I try and write it in. This one's not gonna fit, so I'm gonna put it on the next line. For instance, I probably could have fit average in at a stretch, but I think it would have looked a little too squashed. I do want to try and keep things at least one column of boxes away from the border, just so it kind of gives some breathing room. So putting it on the next line was fine. Got plenty of space for it anyway. For our first definition though, we have of an extent, amount or intensity considerably above average. And for our second definition, we have of ability, quality, or eminence considerably above average. I figured that kind of brings in the idea of bigger and better, which was the general idea I was going for. After this, I am going to write up my runner-up words, and then the space at the bottom here is just going to be a journaling space for why I in particular picked this word. Like kind of what it ties to in terms of my goals. And for this one, I am just going to use that Staedtler Tri Plus Fineliner, and I'm going to use that serif font again. And I think it ties in nicely with having the kind of serif font for the definition, and then a little serif in a similar kind of colour for the runners-up. Like I said, my runner-ups were runners-ups? Well, they were Grow, we had Augment, and we had Cultivate, which were heavily considered but didn't quite fit the bill. From that we can just erase the pencil lines. I think I want to find something to sit in this empty space here. I think I could probably use some washi tape, or like a washi tape sticker. I mean, it's not actually a sticker because it's going to be the same washi tape that I used on all of the pages of this setup. I'm just going to cut out an element as if it were a sticker. This one is from the washi tape shop, and I do actually already have an offcut here. So I was thinking I could just use one of the feathers and put that in there. Maybe one of the purple ones? I don't know. Would that make it too much purple in one space? It might be nice to bring a peach kind of element over onto this page, so maybe I'll use this feather here, and I could possibly stick in some goldy bits over here too. That might be cute. So just taking that and kind of loosely cutting out around the feather. It doesn't need to be too tight because the backing of this tape is pretty see-through. Like, it does have a little bit of opacity to it, but it's not going to be super noticeable. I'm also going to cut around some of these gold bits too, just because one, it's nice to have them, and two, it'll kind of be a little bit hard to cut out around these parts in particular. Like, that's just a little bit too much effort in my opinion, but that'll just sit in here. That'll be pretty cute. Or I could do it like that. I think I prefer, oh actually, okay, I'm gonna do it this way. I like that one the best. Then pull the back off, and I can just go in here. Is that quite right? Oh, I might want it a little further over and a little more tilted. so it gives everything a little bit of breathing room. But it kind of almost looks like what, a quill, you know, a feather quill, so it's like written by the pen, but I thought that I hadn't actually erased the header, so I need to do a bit more of that. That's the thing about penciling in, it can add time taken in the sense that you have to, like, you know, sketch everything out and then erase everything at the end, but it can also save time in that I make a lot less mistakes because of it. I think I will put these little pieces over here. I think that'll be kind of cute. And the nice part is that because I've used this washi tape in the setup already, it doesn't feel like an out of place decoration, if that makes sense. Possibly add a little up here too. Nothing too big though. There we go. And then this guy can just get stored back in here for next time I want to use this tape. So as mentioned, it is my intention to fill out this part off camera just so that I can, you know, have a little bit more time to think about it, and because it's a little more personal, so we'll leave that one. Flipping over though, we have my 101 things to do in 2023, which we already filled in a separate video. Funnily enough, the video that was about my 101 things list. At the moment I'm at 62 things though, so that's pretty cool. I don't have any others to add at this stage, so we're just gonna leave that one. And then we have my 23 23s in 2023. Now because 2023 hasn't started yet, I don't have anything to add to this one, and I already kind of pre-decided what my categories were going to be as part of setting up these pages. But just for a recap, we have the space to actually track doing the 23 things 23 times, and the 23 things that I'm planning on doing are movies watched, so writing down the titles of the movies, TV show seasons watched, so that could be something like season 2 of Avatar: The Last Airbender or whatever. New artists listened to, so I can write down their names there, or, you know, band name, individual artists, all that. Podcast episodes listened to, which I have half a page to write those down, but I think that there might not be quite enough space, so I'm not too sure how to record this, because some podcast names, like the name of the podcast itself, can be a little bit long, and then the episode titles can also be long, so we will see. We have games played to record the name of the game, meat-free dinners to record what the dinner was, new foods tried, social events, dates with Vogel. So on this one it's kind of like a little descriptor of what the date was, along with what date it was, like calendar date. We have JFF or LTC collections, or like, you know, just for fun or long-term collections that I've made, that kind of thing. Cricut projects, where I can write a description of the project. And then for hair masks and face masks, I'm just going to record the date that they're done, and that's why I've been able to fit 2 in here. Same idea with 20-minute workouts and 1 liter water days. That's just about the date that those things happen. We have the someday maybe tasks completed, also known as future me problems, so I can write out what the task was there. Work-free days and live streams, and those ones just recording the date again, so nice and small. Over the page we have bonus videos, so ones that are outside of just my regular Thursday and Sunday posting. Collaborations done with either other brands or other creators. Products in my shop sales, and $100 saved. And those 2 again, they're just going to be the dates that things happened. A little bit of decoration, got some more of that washi tape that I'm using. And then after this one, we're into my book club page. You can see this page is actually coming up a bit because it's attached to this one, which is a Dutch door. So when I cut away the top of the page, I cut like super close here, and it means that this one's actually kind of come out, but the bottom of the page is still attached, so I'm fine with it. What I can record though is that we have picked our book club book for January. We're going to be reading Heartless by somebody. Heartless by Marissa Meyer, so I can write that in. So although these little boxes kind of look like they'd be used to print off the book covers and stick them in, I just want to write the titles and the author in. And I'd like to spell their name correctly, so let's just look that up. Okay, 1 R, not 2, all good. Marissa, and that's Meyer with an E, like Maya? And I don't think I'm gonna rate the book. Oh, maybe I could put a little star rating in after that. Or maybe I'll put the star rating in the bottom, and I can write in the kind of book theme that we had, or like the kind of choosing criteria. So Rachel's choosing criteria when she put up the poll for January was that it had to be like as seen on TikTok, or like popular on BookTok kind of a thing. Popular on social media. There we go. And then if I feel like it, I can put a little rating of the book underneath there, but that's all good. We haven't picked our kind of category for February yet, or like book theme. What am I calling it? A read theme. That's what I'm calling it. A read theme. We haven't picked that for February because we haven't even started January yet. We'll probably pick it somewhere towards the start of January though, so I can, you know, do some research, pick out the books for the poll, and then set the poll up, but don't need to do that just yet. Now we have my no spend challenge. So things that I want to write down here are the rules. I can't write down the spending yet because the year hasn't started, and I won't be filling out any of this because, again, the year hasn't started. Really, my main rules come down to the idea of intentional spending versus unintentional spending. So things that would count as part of the like no spend, or I guess you could say that like would break my day in terms of no spend, would be things like non-pre-planned spends, or like non-pre-planned food out, for instance. So like if we know a week in advance or something, hey, we're going out on Thursday night, we're going to be going out for dinner or whatever, that's a planned in advance spend, so that one's fine. What's not a planned in advance spend is when we get to the end of the day, can't be bothered cooking, and go out and get McDonald's. So that's really what my rules kind of come down to. If, however, on that Thursday that we had pre-planned to go out for dinner, we ended up not going out for dinner and then getting fast food, that would also break the no spend, because the thing that was planned didn't happen. Just because we planned to have food out doesn't mean I can have like any food out. Does that kind of make sense? So I think I'll start with like an exemptions category and then like a non-exemptions category. So things that count, like bills. Bills do not count towards the no spend, so I can pay for bills whenever and it doesn't break my no spend. Things like groceries, they do not count. It's also kind of like to incentivize me to actually buy food from the supermarket and cook it rather than just eating out. So bills, groceries, essentials, pre-planned, and agreed upon spending. I'm gonna call them purchases because that kind of makes more sense. Put an extra line in, but that's okay. What other exemptions will we have? So like I said, we've got bills, so that includes things like power, internet, the rates bills, insurance bills, that kind of stuff. Groceries is anything effectively bought at a supermarket or greengrocer or butcher or whatnot. Essentials are things like subscriptions, but in particular subscriptions that I deem to be essential. So for instance, that'd be something like my subscription to Microsoft Office, because I need to have that. I use it pretty much every day. And then, as mentioned, any kind of pre-planned and agreed upon purchases. So that means that technically I can buy things that are like, not like luxury, but effectively non-essentials. I can buy non-essentials as long as they're agreed upon and pre-planned. And I don't mean pre-planned as in like, hey, it's 5 minutes until we go out, can I go buy a new iPhone or something? That doesn't count. Mainly this challenge is really to get me to stop buying food out, because that is my biggest problem area. So things that are non-exemptions, so last minute non-essential purchases, non-pre-planned food out, and non-pre-planned fast food, because as mentioned, that's really the problem area. I'm also just going to write other, because if it doesn't fall into any of those categories, it was probably non-essential spending. As mentioned, nothing else to fill out on this page because we haven't actually started the year. So flipping over, we have my kind of routine builder. We are what we repeatedly do. So this is for monthly actions I want to do and weekly actions I want to do. I am going to have to start with a brainstorm of these things. So what I'm going to do is put on a video, bring my keyboard over and type some out into Microsoft Word just so I can see how many things I actually have, because if we have a count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's only 8 spaces here for weekly tasks. There are considerably more for monthly tasks, so I need to think about what actually belongs on each of these pages. The brainstorming process took roughly 10 minutes, and it was just time for me to think about what kind of things are important to me, what kind of things do I realistically need the reminder to do versus ones that'll just happen. I didn't want to have too many double ups with this information in terms of other places that I might keep it in my journal, and I don't really want to list out things that are just going to happen because they always happen. This is more about building routines that I'm not very consistent with, or that I'm not very good at remembering to do within certain time frames. If we start with the weekly ones, so I did find 8 for this. The biggest one is going to be the weekly reset, because the weekly reset just has like such huge benefits for my actual like mental health, I suppose. So the weekly reset is very much a time for me to, I guess you could say, reset, given that it's in the title, get really clear on what's coming up, get my space back in order, just give me some kind of mental clarity about the things that are coming up and going on. We also want to be a bit better with our meal planning process. I mean, it does technically happen once a week, but it isn't very routinized in terms of when it happens and how effective we are at then sticking to the meal planning. So meal planning can go on there, so can grocery shopping, because this is one of my tasks. And recently, I have not been very good at kind of doing it, I suppose. Like, Vogel's been picking up the slack, especially during Vlogmas, because, you know, filming a video to release every day just can be a timely process, so it didn't necessarily always come down to me doing it. It was sometimes him, and I want to pick that up again next year. Laundry is another one, which is funny because I used to be very like good about like doing my laundry. I mean, it would happen same day every week, nice and easy, but I've let the ball slip on that, and it has become a bit of a problem area in the past couple of weeks. So getting back on top of that, just routinizing that. Laundry, again, this time for the towels, because that is one of my home tasks. I do that one. And I kind of want to get better at doing both of the towel sets, because we wash them in separate rounds. So we have the bath towels, and then we have the cleaning towels. So I'm just going to put that in brackets. Bathroom and cleaning. Just making to do both sets, because I'm pretty good at doing the bathroom ones. Not so good at getting the cleaning towels done. We've run out of cleaning towels a couple of times, which hasn't been great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. Yeah, there are 8 here. I'm not crazy. I also need to get better at doing the bathroom cleaning. I have been neglecting that. Household work in particular is not a strength of mine. Most of the time I'm just like, it's good enough, but that's not really a great attitude to take, because I know that having these things not done in my house makes me uneasy. I don't want that. Bathroom cleaning on the list. The next one we have is taking an intentional day off. I am not very good at taking time off. I kind of just let my work bleed out into all of my time. So that's something I'd like to look into. And also time out of the house, because now as I work from home, I don't leave the house very often unless it's for grocery shopping, that kind of stuff. And I just don't think that counts as genuine time out of the house. So I want to track that as well. And then I'm going to put in brackets beyond groceries, just so I know that one does not count. I can't use it to fill in this tracker. For the monthly tasks, we have a lot more lines and thus a fair few more to write in here. The first one I'm going to write down is the monthly reset, because again, just like the weekly reset, it is very, very valuable. Monthly reset. But I'm also going to break this down into parts. So we have the physical office space kind of reset, which I consider separately from the kind of home, I guess, reset. This is followed by my physical self-reset, so things like, you know, face scrub, doing my hair mask, that kind of stuff. We then have my digital space reset. That includes things like inbox zero, cleaning up my folder entropy, and doing my budgeting review. We then have the goal review and the planner review. After the monthly reset tasks, because that's all that I have on my monthly reset at the moment, we can put in some other things. So stuff like converting notes and emails into content ideas, because I always save them and then never actually, you know, bother translating them into something that's going to be useful. And then we also just have my monthly content planning, which is going to be something I'd like to routinize a little bit more. On the topic of content, we also have my Patreon tasks, so we'll put all of those on here too. These tasks take up a decent chunk of my list, but I thought it would be good to have a reference of these things in my yearly collections journal, just because it's a list that I find myself writing out quite a lot. I probably didn't have to put the word monthly in terms of a few of these, but it's all good. It doesn't really bother me too much. After this, we can put in some things related to self-care, so stuff like dyeing my hair, because it just makes me feel good. And I'd like to get a little bit more consistent with doing that on a regular basis. Also, shaping my nails, and I'm going to put it in here on the monthly task list, but I think it's going to be one of those things that has to happen multiple times, so I'm going to put it in twice. Another self-care type thing that I want to start up are relationship meetings, which sound a lot more official than they probably need to be, but it's effectively a time for Vogel and I to just check in with each other, make sure that we don't have anything on the house we want to be working on, making sure that we're all good, organising date nights, that kind of stuff. And then we're into the kind of just other admin kind of stuff, so I would like to have a monthly life admin day to try and batch some of those admin tasks. We have things like rotating the mattress, and then I have 3 spare lines that I can fill in later. Flipping over, because that one's done now, we have future me problems, and this one is going to be one that I effectively just need to bring all of my future me problems and someday maybe tasks from my old journals into this one. So this one is going to be one that I turn on like a video or an episode of a podcast or some music to and just kind of almost mindlessly copy it out from my former journals. It's not necessarily mindless though. I am actually going through each of those things and making sure that they're still relevant, still things that I would like to be doing, but I want to put as many of them onto this list as possible so I have it here as a reference. You can see this one's the one that's set up on a Dutch door, so I have plenty of space to add these things in. In transferring from my current journal, or the one I've been using during December, to here, we have almost a page, or, part of a page for these tasks. I do still have 1, 2, 3 left though, and I do actually still need to go through my previous journals and pull forward all of my future me problems or someday maybe tasks that I had in those ones. Or, well, not necessarily pull them forward, but more so look through each of them to see if there's anything that's still relevant, still something I want to do, and put them in here if I do, or scrap them if I don't want to do those anymore. Flipping on forward though, the next page we have here is my then and again and my a word from me page. This one I can't do anything with until 2023 because the idea is that on the first day of 2023, so January 1st, I write myself a letter, I slip it in here, and I can read it on the first day of 2024. It's a similar idea to this one, which has my little envelope and my little letter in here, if we can get it out. My little letter that I'm going to open on the first day of 2023. On this then and again page, I do technically like to fill in the then stuff on the 1st of January, but considering we're close enough to the 1st of January, I don't think that my answers to a lot of these are going to change. Some of them I may leave blank though. But if we have a look through, I'm just going to tilt my page because I actually kind of like writing on an angle a little better. In terms of a goal, we can fill that one in, that's fine. So we've got growing connectedness in the JashiiCorrin community. Savings, we're going to leave that one because it might change. Food obsession, that would probably have to be O-bowl because I love it. It's effectively like a bowl that you kind of like pick the items that goes in it. So it starts with a base, which is like noodles or rice. So brown rice or white rice, cold noodles or hot noodles. and then you put on salad bits, you put on meat stuff, sauces. It's just really delicious. So obol is my current favorite, with yakisoba, edamame, ginger, and chicken, and it's absolutely delicious. A movie that I recently enjoyed would have been Glass Onion. We watched that the other night, and I have no intentions of watching more movies before the end of the year, so this one's fine. Even if I do watch another movie, I did recently enjoy this, so that's okay. I mean, technically we also watched Coco as well, so I'm gonna put both of them because we've watched them both in the past like 4 days. Song Obsession, a song that I'm currently obsessed with. I think I'm probably just gonna go with my top from my Spotify Wrapped, which was Blinding Lights, just by The Weeknd. TV show recently enjoyed. I don't even know what I've been watching for TV shows. Let us consult Netflix. I've been watching Wednesday with Rachel, but we haven't really gotten very far into it. So maybe I write down Wednesday because it is the most recent. But outside of that, I've actually been watching Gilmore Girls. In terms of a game that we've been enjoying, that would be The Quarry. Vogel and I have been playing that one. It was like scary, but actually a lot of fun. Like once you've played it through the first time, you kind of know where the scary parts are, so they're not scary anymore. A book that I've read, I'm reading Decisive by Chip and Dan Heath. That's our current book club read. For a word or phrase used, it's probably something like, I'm gonna do you a murder, which sounds like really ominous, but it's always meant in jest. It's more like, you have done me a mild annoyance, and now I've like totally over-exaggerated. Something that I recently tried. One that stands out would have been the parsnip macaroon that I had when we went to a French restaurant for like a celebratory dinner kind of thing. And I don't really like parsnip, but I do like macaroons, and I was very pleasantly surprised to enjoy the parsnip macaroon. Macaron? I don't know, I've spelled it like that. Something I'm feeling accomplished about would actually be doing Vlogmas for reals. I kind of intended to do Vlogmas last year and it just didn't really happen. Whereas this year I actually managed to get a video out every day, so that was awesome. Biggest life problem? Probably, honestly, like family conflict, and it's not necessarily with my family, which makes it even more awkward, but we're gonna put it down. Unsmiley face. Something that I want to try. I know I have certain foods that I'd like to try cooking from scratch. That would be one thing. I'd also kind of like to try weekly live streaming, but I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'd like to try it, so we're going to put it down. Actually really curious, because I'm going to, after I do this one, I'm going to go and fill in these things for my then and now page from this year, because I called it then and now this year, but for next year I'm calling it then and again, because I thought the name kind of fit better. Something that I'm nervous about. Honestly, probably like finances. So I'm going to just write my financial future. I've become a lot more aware of money and spending recently, and previously it was something that I, very blessed to say I didn't really have to worry about so much. But now as my income isn't kind of like assured or fixed or whatnot, it's just a little bit more, Something that I learned recently would be how to set up my camera. Not that I have actually like done it yet, I've just kind of tweaked all the settings. I don't have it set up. Learned might be a strong word for this, but... And something that I'm looking forward to would have to be our trip to the US. Boom. Alright, so now as we have those in, we have everything except for savings in. We'll just pull that back in frame. But all of those are in for the 1st of January, because those things aren't going to change before the 1st of January. We'll fill in savings when we actually get to the 1st. We can go and fill in those things for my then and now page. If we flip back, so then and now, so this is for the 31st of December. Some of these won't fill in until the 31st, like the savings one, but the other ones I can. Now, with these ones though, I like it to be aligned to the right, which is kind of hard to do when you write left to right, if that kind of makes sense. So I'm going to grab a pencil and actually pencil in the answers before I write in the answers. You can see that the prompts on this one are very much similar to the ones that I have for my 2023 version of the layout. There are a couple of differences, a couple of extra prompts in the 2023 version, but I still like having the snapshot of the start and end for each year. even if the end of one year and the start of the next is pretty much the same. Technically, the only thing that might change could be the savings, because I might put some savings in between recording it on the 31st and then recording it on the 1st. I probably won't, but like, in theory it could happen. We'll get rid of the pencil lines though, because we don't need those, but it's nice to have this page filled in pretty much. Flipping forward though, as mentioned, this one is not getting touched until the 1st of January, which means the yearly collections journal is filled in now, and we can move on to my everyday journal. This one is another A5 journal, also from Matcha and Olive, also has a setup video on the channel, but for today, we're just going to be populating the pages that are already in here. We have the year at a glance and the nameplate page that we don't have to do anything with, and the quote page that also doesn't require anything from me. But after this we have the future log, which does have dates that I need to bring forward, whether they be from my previous bullet journal or from my calendar, anything else like that. I effectively want to have all of those brought into this one place so that I have it as a reference. This also just gives me a good opportunity to review my events that are coming up. I found that when I was filling in my future log in this journal, I had actually double booked myself and had to go make some changes. Thankfully I had enough time to make those changes. But we'll tuck this one to the side. I'm going to put on some music again and just do this via a time lapse, because I don't necessarily need to talk through all of my events that are coming up, but feel free to have a snoop at my upcoming events if you so desire. I don't think any of them are really going to be of interest to many other people, except possibly for the stuff coming up in March. In populating my future log, you can kind of see where my life is going to be busier. Honestly, I'm already dreading February. Like, all of these things are going to be fun, and I am looking forward to them, but it's just a lot going on and a lot to prepare for, because, like, you know, in terms of video creation, content making, realistically I need to have it done effectively in January where possible, so I don't have to do it in February just because there's so much other stuff going on. But flipping over, moving on, we have the level 10 life layout. This one was actually done as part of my goal setting process, or, you know, assigning each of these categories a score out of 10, where 10 is the best and 1 is the worst. Realistically, those scores haven't changed though, so I just need to transfer them over from my brainstorming book. See, we have that one here, and it's, I don't know, beautiful ugly self. So now is the score I'm looking at. So like physical health, I rated a 3, so I can have a line that comes up to the 3rd bar. I think I'm gonna fill this one in with, part of me wants to do dots to kind of mimic the dots here, and it would just be easier to fill in. Part of me wants to turn it into a bar graph, so I'm not really too sure. I think I'll go with the, it's just because I've got this gold element here and I'd kind of like to bring it in a little bit more, but not too much more. I think what I'll start by doing is just mapping in where each of these are. So this is at 3, so like 1, 2, 3, this is at 4, this one also at 4, wait, that's physical environment, oh, whoops, oh no, okay, that's at 4 as well. Personal development, also at 4, ooh. We have finances at 5. If I can put it in the right place, that would be even better. There we go. And then professional, so work is at 7. That's here. Up to there. And then partner or Vogel, that's at 6. Or rather, I don't know, my rating is at 6. Social health. So that's social connections is at 6, and then family is at 5. 5 for family, 6 for social. And I think I'd also like to rate what my scores were before so I can see how they've changed or not changed. So physical was a 2. I'm actually kind of annoyed at myself for placing these dots in the middle because it kind of limits what I can do in terms of the mapping out of these things. Like, I feel like that 3, I'd like to line up with the score of 3, but if I bump it all down 1, it's gonna look a little odd as well, so I'm just gonna leave it there. Mental health was a 4, is a 4. Physical environment was a 5, is a 4. Personal development was a 4, is a 4. Finances was a 3, is a 5. Professional was a 6, is a 7. Partner was a 7, is a 6. And then social was a 5, is a 6. And family was a 5, is a 5. There we go, we can get the brainstorming book out of the way now. Maybe what I'll do is I'll put a gold dot in for what I previously had and the black bar for what I have now. I mean, I could always fill the space with more of the buffalo plaid, but I don't really want to do that to my hand. Maybe I can draw the line out, fill it out in the grey, and then put a little dot in gold for where my scores used to be. Let's go with that. So we're just going to rule the lines in where each of the scores are now. And I'm intentionally using a micron here rather than my, I don't know, Inkjoy pen, just because the Inkjoy pen is not water fast, and if I go and colour this in with my Tombow, that is a water-based marker, so I don't want to end up smudging this black line. And if I use the micron like I am here, that one is watertight, so it's not going to have the issue of, you know, blending or bleeding, smudging with the water-based marker. Do I want to draw lines the whole way through? I think I kind of like having just the outline here. Though it is technically a bar graph, so I feel like I actually should put the bars in, but I think I kind of like the stylized look as well, so we'll do this in for now, and then if I decide that it doesn't quite work, I'll go and add the lines in later. We're allowed to change our mind. It's just if I decided to draw it in the other way and then go with, oh, I really wish I hadn't have done that, that would be a much harder fix. This is going to be a little bit easier to add extra lines to, rather than trying to take them away if I change my mind. And that last line in here. I'm actually tempted to not even bother colouring it in. I think I could just leave it here in terms of colour, and then I'll just go and put my gold dots where they used to be. I'm not actually going to use the dot marker end of this, I'm just going to use the circle. I'm going to draw a little circle in for where my scores were last time. Just on top of the circles that we already put in. And I might do like a kind of difference line or something like that, so it really highlights the fact that things have changed, or which of them have changed in particular. So for this we're just bringing the micron back and then putting in some kind of dots between that circle and the line that we drew in before. There we go. I think it just better highlights the fact that changes have happened for some of them and some of them haven't seen changes in terms of their scores. So what ones that haven't changed were personal development and family relationships and mental health. We've got 2 that went up, so that was partner and physical. And we've got, oh wait, that's not gone up, that's gone down. I can't even read my own graph, oh dear. So ones that went down were physical environment and partner relationship. I think in that case I should actually, I'm just going to put in some little directional arrows so it very much highlights where they've gone down or up. So those 2 went down, they decreased. And then this one went up, and that one went up, and that one went up. There we go. That looks a little bit better. It kind of just highlights it a little bit more, that that change has happened. This is why I like to do the level 10 life analysis effectively with each of my new bullet journals, or like my new everyday journals, because it just gives me kind of some data points as to, am I tracking in the right direction in these different areas? Unfortunately this part wasn't dry just yet, so we have smudged it, but I'm not too worried. I know you can actually get erasers that erase pen, and I think they do that by effectively scratching off the surface of the paper, but I don't have one of those, so we can just leave it as it is. If it really bothers me, which it's starting to, I'll just go in with a white gel pen. I wonder if this white is enough to just cover over it. Kinda. I don't know if it necessarily made it any better. Possibly made it a little worse. Alright, we'll just go over with the jelly roll, just to make it blend in a little bit better, so it's not so visible. I mean, at the moment it's kind of visible to me because it reflects off the light, but it's all good. The intention for this space down here was as a journaling space to kind of explain or elaborate on why these ratings were as they were, or why they changed. Again, my journaling ends up being a little bit more personal, so I'm probably going to do that off camera by myself, do some soul searching for it, but this space over here is for actions, and it's mainly about like, for each of the different kind of areas that I have in my level 10 life, what are some actions that I could take to hopefully get myself a better score next time? Realistically, I want to make these very small. I don't want to make them like big habit building or routine building kind of things, just little individual things that promote a score improvement in those areas. They aren't necessarily going to get my score better. Like, let's just say for physical health, if I had 3 different things and I did all of them, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to end up rating myself 1 higher next time, but they're actions that promote tending in the correct direction in terms of those life areas. This is another one that just required a little bit of brainstorming, so jumping into Microsoft Word, typing up some ideas, until I could come up with some actions for each of those different categories. My brainstorming process for this one took a little bit longer, so about 20 minutes, mainly because I wanted to make sure I had 3 separate actions for each of the individual categories. To put in my actions though, I'm going to start with my Zig Clean coloured dot marker in the red colour to just add in some kind of like dots that I can tick off as I do my actions, just to bring in more of that as an element in terms of like decoration and stuff, because I didn't really use these dot markers as much as I could have when I was doing this setup. I kind of wish I had have used them more consistently throughout the pages, because like what? We have them here, obviously, and on this list, and I think I used them, yep, on the calendar here, and the other calendars that follow. Did I use them after this? Didn't use them here. Was possibly going to use them here but didn't end up doing it, and then haven't used them there. So it is realistically just on this one and those calendars that I've used it. So if I can bring it in a little more, that'll make me happy. But now it's just about writing out each of those actions onto my list. So thankfully, in doing my brainstorming, I actually grouped them already, so this shouldn't in theory take too long. But I want to make an LTC. I say an LTC, but LTC is like long-term collections, so make an long-term collection sounds weird, but make an LTC sounds okay, because the sound of L, like it sounds like it starts with an E. Anywho, but make an LTC of healthy meals that don't suck. I'm just really bad at thinking about foods that I enjoy, and then even worse about thinking about foods that I enjoy that don't suck in terms of like health factor. The next one is find something enjoyable to accompany workouts. Previously I tried using a TV show to accompany working out, but then I didn't like the TV show, so that didn't really work, so I think I need to find something that I do enjoy first and then like pair it with the working out. And then the third one is to review the physical Bujo ideas list for monthly page ideas. Mainly just to see if there's anything that I can incorporate into my setups that would help me in this area, because it's not one that I'm super good at. It's pretty often rated kind of lowly. For mental health, one of the ones I want to do is have a weekend off from work, because as I mentioned before, I'm not very good at stopping working, like ever. I'm pretty much always working, which is fine. Like I enjoy my job, but I do need to have some time off from it. Right, it's just healthy. And the intention here isn't to just have like one weekend off in the entire year. I mean, this journal's only going to last me 4 months, but these are individual actions that I can do. So I could write something like, you know, have weekends off for the whole year, but I'm not gonna be able to do that, especially not in 4 months, because the whole year is longer than 4 months, but hopefully that kind of makes sense. The next one we have is to make a long-term collection for the cognitive distortions. This is something that I've become quite interested in. I think having the reference in my long-term collections journal would be good. And then I've also got the idea of making a self-care journal spread related to journal thoughts. So not just like a decorative page or like a kind of sticker page, mind unwind kind of thing. More like an actual like journaling, brain dumping my thoughts, just getting it all out onto paper. In part so I have a record of how I was feeling, and in part just because I think getting the ideas out of my head is going to be helpful. For physical environment, we have the idea of getting rid of our decluttered items. We're in the process of decluttering effectively our entire house, but I know I'm not going to be able to get those out of my house before the new year, so this task is something that hopefully will happen earlier on in terms of in 2023, but you know, we'll see when it actually does get done, but it will be something I'll want to do. The next idea is to soft finish my office reorganization, because it is in a state. I just need to get it to something that's workable effectively. But this one's actually on my 101 things list, I'm pretty sure. Which I don't mind having double ups in terms of these. It's just more like, for my physical environment, what are the things that I realistically would like to do? And the next one, I would like to make a home project list. Because we have, like, you know, talked about some of the things we want to do, but we don't actually have a set place where the home projects have been written. I think Vogel has his own list, and I've just got kind of like musings in the back of my mind, but it would be nice to have a kind of more centralized, accessible by both kind of location. For personal development, this is one that I actually like weirdly find it difficult, because like I like personal development and the idea of it, but I don't really have any kind of intentions or set directions for it, so I would like to make myself a personal development plan, even if it's just around like focus areas or something like that. If I have no direction, it just makes it a little bit harder to feel good about my personal development. You can see that one's rated as a 4 out of 10, so it could be better. My next one is fairly simple, it's just read a book, which is totally gonna happen, but it's, you know, it's nice to have some simple actions on here too. And then I also like to brainstorm skills that I want to build. My skills list in my long-term collections journal is looking a little bit sad, a little bit barren. It would be nice to actually go and populate that too. For finances, another one that is on the 101 things list is to get a shared savings account, just so we can both see what's going on in terms of our savings. And I would also like to attempt going a full week without unnecessary spendings. So effectively like a full calendar week, or maybe just a full 7 days on my, you know, year in pixels no spend tracker that is all no unnecessary spending. And I'd also like to set myself some spending goals for 2023, or like, you know, maximum spending, I guess you could say, in each of my different categories that I track. Oftentimes when I set these, I don't really come back and pay much attention to them, but it would be nice to at least have them set, so that then at the end of 2023 I can see if I, you know, spent within those soft limits. For my professional health, or like work effectively, I would like to plan the Boudreaux Basics series that I've been musing about for like years. It's gonna happen. I would like it to happen. I just need to actually map it out properly. I would also like to make a proper like roadmap in terms of like just content development stuff. And I'd like to review the survey that I sent out in full, which I'm gonna probably start before the new year. Might not finish it though, because there's a lot of data to work through, but I'd like to review all of those survey results to pull out content ideas from those too. In terms of partner relationship, I would like to have a staycation with Vogel. We were gonna have one in 2022 and it just hasn't happened, and they're always so much fun. It's effectively just like a weekend where we try and get all of the kind of housework, chore kind of stuff done on the like Friday night or something, and then we have the entire weekend to do like not housework, just things like gaming, we'll go out for food, all of that kind of stuff. It's just a good time. I'd also like to start doing alphabet dates with him, because I think that would be a fun challenge. This is an idea that I got from Erin of Erin Floater Designs, but it's effectively like for each of the letters of the alphabet you go on a date that starts with that alphabet letter. I think that she's working through an order, possibly. I don't know if we will, but I think that would be fun. Maybe do like a spinner or something like that. Have our alphabet dates. That would be fun. I'm also going to have to figure out how I record those, because I might want to have something in my journal related to them, but I'm not too sure. And I'm also going to put on have a relationship meeting. Now, obviously from the tracker before, we are going to be trying to have these more often than just once in, you know, the quarter or third of the year that this journal is going to service. But, you know, got to start somewhere, so have a relationship meeting to just kind of kick us off, with the intention of making them a more regular thing. For social health, I would like to host another friend evening kind of thing. So that's where my friends come over to my place and, you know, we have food or like something like that. maybe a games night or whatnot. I'd also like to have an outing with friends of some description, so like we could actually go out for food. I said host, I mean have. I'm just write host/have. Because I haven't been very good about catching up and keeping up with my friends, which, you know, it's just kind of leaves you feeling a little so I'd like to remedy that. Have another friends outing. And what I'd also like to do, and it doesn't necessarily have to like happen during the lifetime of this journal, but I would like to plan an experience for my friends and I, something a little outside of the usual. Just that idea of making memorable moments. So we've got family relationships next. For this one, I want to plan a fun kind of outing for when my parents come back in April. So we can all go together, which would be nice. And I'd also like to have brother and his girlfriend over for another games night, because those are always good fun. Like, they have heaps of board games, we're slowly building up our board game stash, so it can always be a good time. And the third one is to get my mum a birthday gift, because her birthday will happen during this third of the year. I feel very good about having this actions list filled in before I start using the journal, because I have put something in like this previously, but because I didn't fill it in ahead of time, it didn't really get used. That is the level 10 life filled in and the actions list. We also have a space down here for my notes about why I did these ratings, but as mentioned, kind of more personal, kind of journaling based, so I'll do that one later. Flipping over though, we have my goal planning and action plan. Now, initially for the first, third, quarter, whatever of the year, I was only going to have 2 goals. One of them was going to be summarized in here, and the other one was going to be working on my 101 things list. So that was going to be kind of summarized here. Now though, I've actually decided I have a fair few more goals, so I ended up doing my goal planning in my brainstorming book. So I'm not really too sure at this stage how I want to use this. 2 of my goals I'm still yet to map out in full, so I probably have to finish that off first before I start pulling the action plan out of the brainstorming. So like pulling out all of the action steps and summarizing them in here. Because originally this was going to be the kind of like steps to take place, and this was just going to be the planning of the goal, but I've already done this part. And now because I have more goals, I'm probably going to need more space. So maybe I could like summarize my goals here and then just have the entire rest of the space for the action plan. I'm not actually too sure. I might just leave this one for now. We might come back to it, or I might just do it at a different time. I'm not too sure. This one here is going to be my content calendar for January, which I have not yet planned, so I'm not going to fill this one in just yet. I mean, like, I know that I have a video coming out every Sunday and every Thursday, but outside of that, I don't have the timings for other stuff. Notably because I don't have January, I also don't have February, or March, or April decided just yet. So if we flip to the next one, here we have the things that I want to do on my 101 things list for each of these 4 months. For this, we are going to have to consult the 101 things list and see what we can pull out and put into this page. Ones in particular that I would probably like to try and do in January. Well, I mean, okay, if we go through, I know that Go Wild is going to be happening in March, and Go to the US is effectively happening in February, because the last day of February, so does it really count? We're gonna put it down for then anywho. So Go Wild, put that down as 3 dash Go Wild, and 2 for February dash go to the US. Scrolling through the list, just trying to see if there are any in particular. So Go to Toast, Go to the Green Expo, those ones both are going to happen later in the year, so neither of them can happen in here. Tomato soup feels like a winter thing, and it's currently summer, and these months in particular are very warm. Write a letter for 2024 just to open though, we're going to need to do that one, because that one happens on the 1st of January. So that one is, where was it, sorry, 24, that makes a lot of sense. I put it there for a reason, so 24 is right. A letter for 2024 Jeff. What else do I want to do? We've also got do another month of planning series, but I'm not going to do that in any of those 4 months, I don't think. We might schedule it for May, we'll have to wait and see. 12-hour live stream is going to happen closer to mid-year. That one's going to happen closer to the end of the year. Vietnamese coffee might, but not sure. Turning 32 notably happens in October, so can't write that one down. The rest of them, you'll possibly do host a cocktail night. I don't really want to do any kind of like, I don't know, social evening kind of stuff in February just because that one's really busy, and I'm not too sure about January. I might wait until I next catch up with my friends and see when they would be free for that kind of thing. Fully unpack my school stuff, that would be a good one to be put in January. I think I'll actually put that one there, that makes a lot of sense. Because I really want to prioritize doing my office organization, so 46. Fully unpack my school stuff. And putting these things down on the list doesn't mean that like they're the only of my 101 things that are going to happen. It's more just like mapping out which ones I would like to focus on for the month. We have get a new office floor mat. That one actually is kind of a priority because my current floor mat is driving me crazy. So let's do 48, get a new floor mat. Notably can't try a pumpkin spice drink until the pumpkin spice season. Host a workshop, not going to do that in the first quarter. Finish more book club books than in 2022. Well, I need to read more than 4 to achieve that one, so that one's not going to happen. Do a live pen swatching video though, I think would be a lot of fun, and I might try and do that one in January. Celebrate Scotty and Nathan's wedding is happening in Feb, so I can put that one down. Getting a library card I'd actually kind of like to do in January too, so we'll put those ones down. So 61 I said, we have 53, and number 57. Oh, I didn't put a dot in for the February one, how annoying, 57. You'll note that I'm filling in a lot of the ones for January, more so than for April, March, that kind of thing. That's just because January's a lot closer. I have a better idea of how January's going to go at this stage than February, March, or April, so having that one filled in just makes a little more sense. After this, we then have my reset processes list. So this is my daily, weekly, and monthly reset processes. We've already talked about the monthly one, so I'm going to write that one down first because I have a good idea of what that one entails. But for the daily and weekly, I think I want to do a little bit more brainstorming before I put them down on the paper. But effectively for the monthly reset, we start with the physical environment, we then move on to the self reset, or like my personal physical self, so like face mask, hair mask, body scrub. We then get into the digital reset, which also involves my budget reset and budget review, because that one's done digitally, goal review, planner review, and then retidy, because a lot of the time, after having done planner stuff, my desk gets a bit messy, and I'd rather leave it in a nice and clean state. Now though, as mentioned, I am going to do some brainstorming for the daily and weekly resets, so bringing back that keyboard, typing up my ideas, sorting them, and then we can put them into the reset process page. This brainstorm was another one that took about 20 minutes, just because I really had to think about the daily ones in particular. The weekly reset is essentially the same as previous times I've done it, but the daily tasks, those ones took a little bit more thought. Once the brainstorm was done and sequenced though, I could just populate the page in exactly the same way that I did the monthly reset tasks. So using the little circle for kind of headers, I guess you could say, and then the little lines for the individual reset tasks. You can see the daily lists, we have 2 separate columns, so the kind of start of day stuff and the end of day stuff. And then the weekly reset has a slightly different structure, looking at a kind of timeline approach. So pre-reset, start, middle, end, and post-reset. You will also notice that there are some double ups between my lists, and that's just because I want to do them on the regular. Maybe the reset that's for a larger period of time is just a more thorough or in-depth version of that task. But for my daily reset processes, we have the start of day reset list, which is to 1. Populate my annual trackers, so things that are in my yearly collections journal. We have the population of my start of journal pages, so that'll be the pages in the start of this journal, or whichever everyday journal I'm using. So things like reviewing my level 10 life actions and ticking those off as they happen, that kind of stuff. The next task is to populate my daily trackers, so these ones in particular are going to be part of my monthly setups. Things like my habit tracker, my self-care tracker, any other trackers that I'm using. We then have the reviewing of my daily events or priorities. That'll be on my daily log. We have brain dumping any other entries into my daily log, whether they be tasks, notes, other stuff. I then want to be picking my first task for the day so that I can time block my calendar. I have tried time blocking on a weekly basis, but it doesn't really seem to work for me. So I'm hoping that time blocking on a daily basis, so time blocking for the day that I'm actually on, will hopefully be a little bit better. Once that's done though, it's time to leave my journal open on my desk and then get started on my tasks. For the daily reset list for the end of the day, or my finish list, the first task on this is to populate my daily trackers again, and that's because throughout the day I will have done things on those trackers that I can then check off, and I'll also want to take an opportunity to add in any daily notes to my daily log. This could be happenings from the day, thoughts and musings, whatever's relevant for the time. After this, I'm going to want to write in my daily header for the next daily log, so that I can then use the space underneath this to add in any events. I then also want to review any open tasks that I have on my daily log, and from these and from anything else that's going on, select my next day priorities. I want these to be at the top of my daily log so that they are very obvious, very easy to spot, and I know what I need to get done. The next task on this list is to migrate any entries on the current daily log, so whether they be moving them to my someday maybe or future me problems list, whether they be bringing them into my daily log for the next day, or just putting them wherever they need to go. If necessary, I'll also add in any more tomorrow tasks that I need to do, and then the last item on this list is to populate my 5-year journal, and that will conclude my daily journaling ritual. In terms of the weekly reset process, this one you have seen before. We have a couple videos up on the channel related to this one, but as mentioned, it's broken down into 5 stages. We have the pre-reset, the start of reset, the middle, the end, and the post-reset. The first task in the pre-reset is to pick an after-reset task. I treat my weekly resets very much as a kind of self-care activity, so an opportunity to just make myself feel fresh and new for the week ahead, get my thoughts down onto paper and all of that kind of stuff, but as it's a self-care ritual, I want to do something enjoyable as part of that. Fun is very much something I like to bring into my self-care, so picking an after-reset task that's small and enjoyable. The next thing I want to do, to go along with that whole self-care vibe, is to get myself a nice drink, typically something that's outside of the ordinary in terms of things I drink, so sometimes yes, it will just be a nice cold Coke Zero, but a lot of the time I'll try and do something a little bit more special. I'll also put on my reset playlist and then get started on tidying my desk. Working in a cluttered space does not bring me much peace, so tidying my desk is a really important step. Moving into the start of reset list, the next task is to do an initial brain dump of any tasks, events, notes, whatever it may be, just to get them out of my head and onto paper. I'll come back to this brain dump throughout pretty much all stages of the reset that follow to add other things in as I do more steps. The next step though is to review open tasks, so a step that we have seen before in the daily list, but it just gives me an opportunity to go back through and make sure that there's nothing still hidden in those daily logs. For the middle of the reset, we start off by doing an inbox zero. This also gives me an opportunity to add more things to my brain dump, just pulling out tasks, events, information from the emails that I have in my inbox. Once they're done with though, they can go into either their relevant archive folder or into the bin. As part of the middle of the reset, I'll also check in with my calendar, check in with any plans I've made. This also sometimes includes checking in with people to make sure that the plans are still happening. And I'll also make sure to check my yearly collections journal and my start of bullet journal, just to see if there's anything that I need to pull out of either of those places. Once we've got all of those things on the brain dump though, we can then move into the end of reset. So this is very much about organizing all of those entries and putting them in the relevant places, whether that be my future me problems list, or on my next weekly log, or in the monthly log, or effectively just wherever they need to go. Once I've populated all the places, it's time to re-tidy up my desk because, as mentioned, it can get messy when I do these things. Just putting away my pens, putting away anything I've gotten out for them, and then I can do my small, enjoyable task that I decided on at the start. I feel good about having these reset processes all written out in my journal. I gave myself a space for this in my yearly collections journal for 2022, and I only actually ended up populating one part of it. I think I had a weekly and a monthly, and I think I populated the weekly and not the monthly, so having all of them in here just makes me feel good. It's nice to have this as a reference. Flipping over though, here we have my media list. At this stage, I don't think I have anything to add, but just to kind of show you what I mean, because I don't think I'm going to finish Wednesday, the TV show, before the end of this week. So the way that I would do this is I would add a dot underneath this tick column, because the tick column is to check off when something's like done, finished with. And I'll write Wednesday beside it because that is the media title. And I'll also write season 1 or SO1 because that's how I denote seasons, just so that I know that it's only the first season that I'm talking about here. Because Wednesday is a TV show, I'm also going to put a little X underneath my little TV icon. So just there. If we add in another example, say it's a movie, I'll put in a little X underneath the little movie icon. I'll add a dot under the column that has the check mark, because I only actually cross that off once I have watched the thing. And then beside that on the right here, I can write in what that movie title is. Now I just need to think of a movie that I want to watch so I can fill that in. Let's say Black Panther Wakanda Forever, because I haven't seen that one yet. I could also technically half cross Wednesday like this, so putting a slash there to say that it has been started, but I don't have a full cross because I haven't finished it yet. So that's effectively how this page is going to get used. This will be a place to add in ones that I both have seen or watched or listened to or whatnot, and also ones that I want to see or watch or listen to. This page here is for my next journal. I don't actually have any notes about my next journal at this stage, probably because I haven't even started really using this one. I am going to erase some pencil lines in the corner here though, just because I didn't actually erase them properly it seems. And then after this one, we have my swatch pages, kind of planning pages for each of my monthly setups. So January is obviously already done, so that one's already planned out in full. February we are nowhere near planning out, but after this we have January. I've just got these two pieces of paper here because I was using them as a photo prop. I can go and fill stuff in here, so that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna start with my Patreon list. And for that one, I'm going to bring back my yearly collections journal because I already have the list of things I need to do, because we wrote it out on my monthly habit builder section. So effectively just transferring these tasks onto here, possibly taking out the word monthly each time. And we're also going to have it as a checklist because these are tasks that I want to be done in January rather than just ideas of tasks that I can check off for each month on the side here. Along with the tasks that are already on that list, I also added in some welcomes because I like to welcome everybody who joins my Patreon. At this stage, I'm not going to add in anything to the YouTube list because I haven't finalized my YouTube calendar for January, so there's no point in populating it. But if we take this guy away, I don't have to put anything on the cover page, so then it's just flipping on in to the monthly log, which does need to be populated. I will say though, at this stage, I don't really have a lot going on in January, it seems. I think I want to use my dot marker rather than drawing circles on here though. I mean, things that are typically going on, stuff like Bujo Wednesday, so I can add those in. I can add in Mum's birthday, but outside of that, I don't think I have a lot of plans. At this stage, I'm kind of thinking about making Monday my kind of home admin type day, but I don't have that as like a set in stone plan yet. I could probably hazard a guess and say that on the 29th is when we're going to have our book club meeting. Oh, we do actually have our December book club meeting on the 8th, I'm pretty sure. Normally it would happen on the last weekend of the month in question, but the last weekend of December is New Year's Eve, so didn't really think people were going to be super free. So we can say December book club meeting. I know that there's going to be things like the live stream that we have for patrons. I know there's going to be the hangout that I have for patrons. I just haven't got the times for those yet. You know, in saying that, I've actually totally already scheduled the patron hangout. So that one is there. I knew there was some stuff going on, she says after she just said she didn't have anything going on. This is looking okay so far. I mean, there's going to be plenty more to add to this, but I'm gonna say it again, and hopefully it'll be right this time. That's all that I've got at the moment. Flipping forward though, Actions list I can't quite populate just yet because I really want to figure out how I want to populate the goals/actions page from my start of journal setup. So what, the one back here. Yeah, I want to figure out how to populate this before I populate this one. It's going to require a little more thinking. Habit tracking. For habit tracking, I also need to figure out this one before I do that one because these are going to be the daily actions, so very much related to each other. So annoyingly can't fill that one out. The self-care tracker though, I believe I can start filling in because I've at least decided on what my daily tasks that I want to track are. I can put my little key in and I just need to brainstorm the weekly and then any kind of monthly tasks. So I can fill that one in. We'll do that one now. I'm going to start by writing in my key and then draw the icons in to represent each of those things. So we have my AM pill, my multivitamin, shower, face wash, body wash, face moisturizer, body moisturizer, got skincare, we've got AM teeth brush, finish work. So this one realistically should say finish work by dinner time, but I don't really have enough space to write that, but I know what I mean by this, so it's all good. I also have PM pill. I don't know if you've been able to tell, but I'm actually trying to kind of sequence these in order of how they would actually happen. Leisure time, reading time, we've got PM teeth, and flossing. Now I will say that most of these do already happen on a daily basis, but some of these I have a little bit more trouble with actually kind of remembering to do them because I don't have good habits set in place or kind of good triggers for getting these habits to happen set up with my routines at the moment. So I kind of want to track them all together just so I can see if there are any patterns between which ones do happen or don't happen when other things do or don't happen. So for my AM pill, we're going to do a circle for the pill ones because I always just find it easier. So those ones, and the PM one. The PM one can have a little P, the AM one can have a little A, and the multi can have a little plus. For my AM teeth, that can have a circle and a toothbrush because the circle kind of represents the sun effectively, and then the PM can have a little moon and a toothbrush. It's like the toothbrushing and then the little moon mean PM, and then the little sun means AM. We'll just put some dots around it so it kind of looks like a sun. Flossing, I'm just gonna do a kind of like squiggle, so it's kind of like a piece of floss. Reading time can be a little book, that one makes sense. Leisure time can be a smiley face because it's like for fun. Finish work time can be a clock, and I'm going to point that clock towards, I don't even know, I'm going to point it towards 7 PM even though I hope to finish earlier. Body wash I'm going to put as a little person with 3 dots on either side because it's kind of like the bubbles, like soap bubbles. And then body moisturizer I'm just going to put a little person, so similar but different. Face moisturizer and face wash I'm going to probably do the same thing, but face moisturizer and leisure time I can't have it as the same icon, so maybe for face I'll just do a little smile with the 3 dots on either side, and then the face moisturizer I'll just do as a little closed-eyed smile. Oh, okay, I pointed the eyes up on that one. That's okay. For shower, we can draw a little shower head that's nice and easy. And for skincare, I'm gonna do, I guess like just like a little tube that honestly probably looks a little bit like toothpaste, but I know what I mean. So now we just need to draw all of those in the same order over here so I know what each of them represent. And it's really nice and simple. I do encourage, if you are going to do icons like this where there's one icon per individual dot grid box, make the icons really simple and very easy to draw out, and also using a thinner pen can be helpful too. Like this pen is thin, I could probably have picked a thinner one, but it looks pretty cute. Just making sure that I am indeed putting them in the same order because it'll just make filling it out a lot easier. I'm going to put the moisturizer face in the same direction, so that's easier too. Skincare little bottle tube thing. Effectively, as long as the icons are different enough that I can see what they are, it doesn't really matter what the icons are. I mean, you could also just go for something like letters instead of icons. That would be a lot easier. I just kind of like the visual appeal of the icons. I think they're cute. If I end up using the same set of icons month after month, like if I do this tracker again, I probably will get to a point where I don't have to write them out. or I could always set my tracker up so that then my header could run like along the side of the page. I just put lines on the book, so I'm going to put the lines on the book here too. I could have it so that then I can actually write all these descriptors up and then just have my header along the side here instead, or something like that. I find actually a lot of the time headers really aren't super necessary. Like if you're the person who's using your journal and it's pretty obvious what the page is set up for, you don't really need a header, but that's all good. That looks pretty cute. Now we're on to the weekly tasks though, and the weekly tasks I know I need to brainstorm. The way that I want to fill in the weekly tasks though is writing in what the task is and then writing out the numbers 1 to 5 underneath it so I can put a dot over the top for the ones that I actually did do. So as it stands, I have enough space for 3 weekly tasks at the moment. For the written labels, I can just go in with my Papermate Inkjoy because I'm not going to put any colour over the top of those, but for the numbers for each of the weeks, I'm going to have to use a micron because I don't want the ink to get picked up on my dot marker. But I know that one of them is going to be the weekly reset, which we're tracking in a few different places, but that's because it is really valuable and I want to make sure that I'm doing them. Another thing that is going to be really valuable for my self-care is taking a day off, which again, we are tracking in another place, but it's that idea of like putting it repeatedly in different places in my planner means that regardless of where I'm looking, I know that it is a priority, if that kind of makes sense. We really only have 4 full weeks in January, so I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I can also have like an I for like the initial part of a week, which is literally 1 day because I use a Monday start calendar, and the final, which is only 2 days because it's the final Monday and Tuesday of January. But that's all good. Fills up the line at least. And even if I don't get the task done in those little parts of a week, I'm not really gonna like beat myself up about that because I know it's only like 1 day for one of them and 2 days for the other. I'm also gonna put nail shaping on here because that's something that I want to kind of be better about, because honestly, a lot of the time I don't shape my nails, I just bite them off, and it would be nice to know when in the month I was shaping them too. I don't have any other weekly tasks I want to add, so we're going to add the monthly tasks. And for this one, I actually only have one in particular that I am aware of that I want to add. But we'll add in our little blue highlights first, just so they're nice and consistent with the rest of the page. And the one monthly task I'm aware of is my hair dyeing, which again, something we've put in somewhere else, but it's a priority. That one looks good. For the book club tracker, I'm actually just going to go and number each of the chapters because I think it'll just make it a little bit more user-friendly, honestly, because otherwise I have to like count the numbers every time I want to fill it in, and that will just get tedious. So 6, 7, 8. I kind of wish that I had have put a place to record what the book club book was for this month in here. Like I probably didn't have to have the chapter columns so far apart. I probably could have put them over a little bit and put kind of like a little summary or something like that. Just, you know, author, title, genre, that kind of information, but it's all good. I don't mind. 52, 53, and chapter 54. So the idea is that as I read each chapter, I can just tick off in the little circle once I've read that chapter. Notes and musings is just for any kind of notes I have. And then after this, we're onto my Instagram and posting elsewhere schedule. As mentioned, I haven't sorted out my content calendars for January, so I'm not going to fill either of these in just yet. And flipping over from that one, we have the January reflection, which we are nowhere near filling in because this is for the end of January. I haven't set up my first weekly in January yet, and I'm not going to do that right now, because what's probably going to actually happen is I'm going to use a full page for the first day of January, then maybe a page for something else, and then we'll get into the weekly. Or what I'll end up doing is having a weekly that has 8 days on it. Haven't decided at this stage, but my journals are feeling much more filled out. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, hopefully you got to journal along with me, and maybe it was a valuable thing to be able to see my process for filling in all of my different parts of my different journals. If you like this form of longer video content, then I do have a playlist in the top right corner here that you can check out. Or if you wanted to see the setups of either of the 2 journals that I showed you today, then the playlist at the bottom is where it's at. Click or tap on either of those and I'll see you over there.